The elevator doors slid open and Daniel Hayes stepped into the gleaming lobby of Hale Tower, carrying his worn toolbox, unaware these would be his final moments as an employee. 15 years of loyalty, of keeping every light burning and every system running, were about to end in front of everyone. His daughter Lily clutched his hand, excited for Bring Your Kid to Work Day, about to witness her father stripped of everything but shame. But within the hour, when the tower's heart stopped beating and darkness swallowed 50 floors, the man they threw away would become the only one who could save them all. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you're curious how a janitor becomes a hero, hit that like button and stay until the end. The morning started like any other Thursday. Daniel Hayes, 53 years old, with the kind of weathered face that told stories he'd never speak aloud, pushed through the service entrance of Hale Tower at 6:47 a.m. His daughter Lily, 9 years old with his same brown eyes and her mother's stubborn chin, practically bounced beside him. "Dad, is your office really in the basement?" she asked, adjusting her backpack. "It's not an office, sweetheart. It's more like a workshop, a big one." "But you said you keep the whole building running." Daniel smiled, the kind that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I do, just not from the fancy floors." The service elevator groaned as it descended. Daniel had been meaning to replace the cable mechanism for weeks, but maintenance requests went through Marcus Webb in operations, and Marcus had a talent for losing paperwork that didn't benefit him directly. Still, Daniel made a mental note. The vibration pattern was wrong. Inconsistent tension, probably fraying at the third pulley. "You're doing it again," Lily said. "Doing what?" "Listening to the building. Mom used to say you could hear things nobody else could." The mention of Sarah hit him like it always did, a dull ache that had never quite healed even 3 years later. Cancer didn't care that she was only 41, that Lily needed her mother, that Daniel had no idea how to braid hair or explain periods or any of the 1,000 things Sarah had handled. "Your mom was right about a lot of things," he said quietly. The basement corridor stretched before them, a maze of pipes and conduits and machinery that most people never saw. This was Daniel's domain, the mechanical heart of a 50-story tower housing over 3,000 people daily. He'd memorized every valve, every circuit breaker, every quirk and flaw in a building that pretended to be newer than it was. "Mr. Hayes!" A voice echoed down the corridor. Tommy Chen, 26, and eager in that way young maintenance workers were before the job wore them down, jogged toward them. "Chiller 3 is making that sound again." "The grinding or the squealing?" "Both now." Daniel sighed. "Tell me you logged it this time." Tommy's silence was answer enough. "Look, I know Marcus is a pain in the ass." Daniel glanced at Lily. "Sorry, sweetheart. I know he's difficult. But if we don't document failures, we can't justify replacements. Then something breaks catastrophically, and guess who gets blamed?" "Us," Tommy muttered. "Us," Daniel confirmed. "Show me." They wound through the mechanical room, Lily sticking close to Daniel's side. The space was a cathedral of infrastructure. Boilers the size of cars, electrical panels that could power a small town, water treatment systems that process thousands of gallons daily. Most people used buildings without thinking about the complex choreography required to keep them functioning. The chiller announced itself before they reached it, a grinding shriek that made Lily cover her ears. Daniel knelt beside the unit, pressing his palm against the housing. The vibration told him everything, bearing failure, imminent and total. He'd warned Marcus about this 6 months ago, then 3 months ago, then last week. "It's dying," Tommy said. "It's been dying. Now it's just loud about it." Daniel stood, brushing his hands on his work pants. "Lily, stay here with Tommy. I need to check something." He climbed the metal stairs to the catwalk overlooking the mechanical room. From here he could see the entire system, the interdependence of components that kept Hale Tower alive. The problem wasn't just the chiller. It was the deferred maintenance, the budget cuts, the slow rot that happened when executives saw only spreadsheets instead of systems. His radio crackled. "Daniel, you there?" It was Janet from the security desk. "Copy." "Mr. Webb wants to see you, top floor, says it's urgent." Daniel frowned. In 15 years, he had been to the executive floor maybe twice, both times to fix something that affected the CEO directly. "Did he say what about?" Negative. Just said, "Bring your things. Bring your things." The phrase settled in his stomach like a stone. "Copy that. On my way." He descended the stairs. Lily was examining a pressure gauge with the careful attention she gave everything, Tommy explaining how it worked. She had Sarah's curiosity, that need to understand how things fit together. "Change of plans, sweetheart. We need to go upstairs." "To the fancy floors?" Her eyes lit up. "To the very top." The executive elevator was a different species from the service one. Smooth, silent, expensive. Lily pressed herself against the glass wall as they rose, watching the city expand beneath them. Daniel watched the floor numbers climb and tried to calculate his severance. 15 years should mean something, even if his contract was technically at will. The 50th floor smelled like money. Real hardwood, not laminate. Original art, not prints. The kind of silence that came from thick carpet and people who'd learned to modulate their voices. A young woman at reception, Brittany, according to her nameplate, looked up with the practiced smile of someone trained to be polite to everyone while meaning it for no one. "Daniel Hayes?" she asked, though she obviously knew. "That's me." "And who's this?" She smiled at Lily. "My daughter. It's bring your kid to work day." Something flickered across Brittany's face. Pity, maybe, or discomfort. "Of course. Mr. Webb is waiting for you in conference room A. Down the hall, last door on the right." The hallway was lined with photographs of Hale Tower's construction, of Vanessa Hale shaking hands with city officials, of ribbons being cut and champagne being poured. In none of these photos did Daniel see the workers who'd actually built anything. Conference room A had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Marcus Webb stood near the glass, his back to the door. He was early 50s like Daniel, but lived in a different world. Tailored suit, expensive watch, the kind of posture that came from never having to physically labor. "Daniel, thanks for coming up." Marcus turned, and Daniel saw Vanessa Hale seated at the conference table. He'd seen the CEO before, of course, usually striding through the lobby or stepping into her private elevator. She was 47, blonde, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Daniel made in a month. Beautiful in that calculated way successful women often were, every detail considered, nothing accidental. "Miss Hale," Daniel said, suddenly aware of his work clothes, the grease under his fingernails. "Mr. Hayes." Her voice was cool, professional. "Please sit." Daniel pulled out a chair. Lily started to sit beside him, but he caught her eye and shook his head slightly. She understood, moving to a chair along the wall, pulling out her book. "I'll get straight to the point," Vanessa said. "We're restructuring the maintenance department, outsourcing to Titan Facilities Management. It's more cost-effective, provides better coverage, and frankly, brings us into the modern era." The words landed like punches. Daniel forced himself to stay still, to listen. "Your position is being eliminated, effective immediately. You'll receive 2 weeks severance for every year of service. HR will process your final paycheck and benefits information. Marcus has your termination paperwork." Marcus slid a folder across the table. Daniel didn't touch it. 15 years, Daniel said quietly. "I've been here 15 years. "And we appreciate your service," Vanessa said, her tone suggesting she was reading from a script she'd practiced. "But the building requires comprehensive facility management, and Titan offers—" "I know every system in this building," Daniel interrupted. "Every quirk, every weak point. I can hear when something's wrong before the sensors register it. Do the Titan people know that the HVAC on floors 20 through 25 runs hot because of a calibration error from the original installation? That the fire suppression system on 32 has a valve that sticks when the temperature drops below 40 degrees? That the backup generator has a 30-second delay that's not in any manual because it's a workaround I installed after the manufacturer discontinued the part we needed? The Titan team will have full access to all building documentation," Marcus said. "Documentation doesn't capture 15 years of knowing how something actually works versus how it's supposed to work." "Mr. Hayes," Vanessa's voice sharpened, "I understand this is disappointing, but this is a business decision, not a personal one. Titan provides professional, certified technicians with modern training and—" "I'm certified," Daniel said. "I have every license required, plus 3 more. I've trained most of the maintenance staff currently working here, including Tommy Chen, who's been here 2 years and is still learning where half the equipment is located. Nevertheless, there's a bearing failure in chiller 3. It needs to be replaced before next week, or you're looking at a complete system failure during business hours. The service elevator has fraying cables that need replacement. The main electrical panel in the east wing has been running 5% hot for 3 months, which means there's a connection failing somewhere in the system. I've documented all of this multiple times, but the requests keep getting buried because they're not urgent enough until they become catastrophic. Vanessa's expression didn't change. Those issues will be addressed by Titan's team. Will they? Because in my experience, outside contractors don't care about preventing problems. They care about billing for fixes. There's no incentive for them to catch the small stuff before it becomes expensive. That's a cynical view. It's a realistic view. The silence stretched. Through the window, Daniel could see the city going about its business. Thousands of people who had no idea their livelihoods depended on functional elevators and working HVAC and electrical systems that didn't fail. Look, Daniel tried again, forcing his voice to stay level. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm just saying that this building is more complicated than it looks. It needs someone who knows it intimately. Give me 6 months. Let me train the Titan team properly. Make sure they understand. The decision is final, Vanessa said. I'm sorry, but this conversation is over. Security will escort you out. Something broke in Daniel's chest. Not anger. He was too tired for anger. Just a profound, hollow exhaustion. Dad? Lily's voice was small from across the room. He'd forgotten she was there. Forgotten she was hearing all of this. It's okay, sweetheart, he said, his voice rough. We're leaving. He stood, leaving the folder on the table. Marcus looked almost guilty. But Vanessa's expression remained unchanged. Professional distance, the look of someone who'd made difficult decisions before and would make them again. Mr. Hayes, she said as he reached the door, for what it's worth, this isn't personal. He turned back. For the first time, he really looked at her, not as his boss, not as the CEO, but as a person. He saw someone who'd built walls so high she'd forgotten what it felt like to be on the other side of them. That's the problem, Ms. Hale. It should be personal. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They're people's lives. But you stopped seeing people a long time ago, didn't you? Her face flickered, something underneath the professional mask trying to surface. But then it was gone. Daniel took Lily's hand. They walked out of conference room A, down the expensive hallway, past Brittany at reception, who couldn't meet his eyes. The elevator ride down felt longer than the one up. Lily pressed against his side, and he could feel her confusion, her hurt. Did you get fired? She asked. Yeah, sweetheart, I did. But why? You're really good at your job. Sometimes being good isn't enough. That's not fair. No, Daniel agreed. It's not. They reached the basement. Daniel's locker held 15 years of accumulated life. A spare set of clothes, work boots, photos of Lily at various ages, a birthday card she'd made him 3 years ago that said, "World's Best Dad," in crayon. He packed it all into a cardboard box Tommy found for him. This is bullshit, Tommy said. You trained half the people here. Watch your language, Daniel said automatically, nodding toward Lily. Then quieter. It's just business, Tommy. Don't take it personally. How can I not? If they're getting rid of you, what chance do the rest of us have? Daniel didn't have an answer for that. They walked through the basement one last time. Daniel found himself pausing at different pieces of equipment, like saying goodbye to old friends. The boilers he'd coaxed through a dozen winters. The electrical panels he'd rewired section by section over the years. The water treatment system that had nearly flooded the building once before he figured out the valve sequencing issue. Sir? Security guard posted at the service entrance, young guy, Robert or Richard, Daniel could never remember, stepped forward awkwardly. I need to collect your access card and radio. Daniel handed them over, watching his access to the building vanish. 15 years compressed into a cardboard box and a severance check he hadn't even looked at. They emerged onto the street. It was 9:47 a.m. Less than 3 hours ago, he'd had a job, a purpose, a place where he was needed. Now he had a daughter looking at him with barely contained tears and a future that felt like staring into fog. Ice cream, he suggested, because what else do you do when your world falls apart? Lily nodded. They walked 2 blocks to the diner they sometimes visited, the one with the cracked red vinyl booths and the waitress who knew their order. Daniel let Lily get chocolate chip pancakes even though it wasn't breakfast time, and he ordered coffee he didn't want just to have something to do with his hands. "Can we talk about it?" Lily asked, drowning her pancakes in syrup the way Sarah used to tell her not to. "About what?" "About what you're feeling." She sounded so much older than 9. Too old. Daniel wondered when exactly he'd failed to protect her from having to be the mature one. "I'm feeling like I let you down," he admitted. "You didn't. I was supposed to provide for you, give you stability, and I just lost my job in front of you." "That lady was mean," Lily said firmly. "The one who fired you. She didn't even look sad about it." "She probably fires people all the time. You get used to it. That's even worse." Daniel almost smiled. "Yeah, sweetheart. It kind of is." His phone buzzed, a text from Janet at security. "Turn on the news." He pulled up a news app. The headline hit him immediately. Hale Tower. Crisis, total power failure, traps hundreds. His coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. "Dad?" Lily leaned over to see the screen. "What's wrong?" He read fast, his pulse accelerating. Catastrophic electrical failure. All elevators stopped. Emergency systems offline. 3,000 people in the building. At least 200 trapped between floors. Fire department responding, but stairwells dark. Ventilation failing. The timestamp, 9:52 a.m., 5 minutes ago. Daniel's mind raced through the building's systems. Total power failure meant the main electrical panel had gone. The same one he'd warned about. The one running hot. The connection failing. And if the emergency systems were offline too, that meant the backup generator hadn't kicked in, which meant either fuel system failure or the 30-second delay had turned into something worse. 3,000 people. Pregnant women, diabetics, people with heart conditions. Elevators were metal boxes turning into coffins as oxygen depleted and panic set in. Dark stairwells 50 floors high where one wrong step meant a deadly fall. "We should go," Lily said, reading his expression. "Go where?" "Back. To help." "Sweetheart, they fired me. I don't work there anymore." "But you know how to fix it. You said so yourself. You know every system." "That's not my job anymore." "So?" Lily's voice rose. "So you're just going to let people die because someone was mean to you?" The bluntness hit him hard. She was right, of course. His daughter was 9 years old and had a clearer moral compass than he did in this moment. "I don't have access," he said. "Security took my card. I can't get in." "You know the service entrance code. I saw you use it this morning." "They'll have changed it." "Maybe, maybe not. And if they have, you can call Tommy, or that security guy, or somebody." She grabbed his hand across the table. "Dad, you always told me that being good at something means you have a responsibility to use it when people need you. Mom said that's why you became a Marine, that you wanted to help people." Sarah. Always Sarah speaking through their daughter, reminding him who he used to be before the world wore him down. Daniel pulled out his wallet, threw cash on the table. "Come on," he said. They ran the 2 blocks back to Hale Tower. The scene outside was chaos, fire trucks, ambulances, news vans, crowds of people who'd evacuated through the stairwells. Daniel pushed through, Lily tight against his side. The service entrance code hadn't been changed. They slipped through, descended to the basement. The mechanical room was dark except for emergency lighting. No ventilation, no power hum, just the settling silence of a building dying. Tommy was there with a flashlight, staring at the dead main panel. "Jesus Christ, Daniel," he breathed. "It's bad. Really bad." "I know. Where's the Titan team?" "Haven't shown up yet. Their contract doesn't start until next month." Of course it didn't. Daniel set his box down, pulled out his work gloves. "Lily, I need you to stay right here, okay? Don't move, don't touch anything." "I'll help Tommy," she said. "Sweetheart, I'll stay with him. I promise." "Go." Daniel looked at Tommy, who nodded. "I'll watch her." "Okay?" Daniel clicked on his own flashlight. "Let's figure out what we're dealing with." The main panel was catastrophic. The connection failure he'd warned about had cascaded, shorting out the entire system. Scorch marks on the housing, melted insulation, the acrid smell of electrical fire. But the panel itself was just the symptom. He traced circuits, checked connections, followed power paths. The problem was deeper, older, original infrastructure that had been bandaged and patched and jury-rigged for decades. The building had grown more complex, demanded more power, but the bones remained the same. "Can we just bypass and run everything off the backup generator?" Tommy asked. "Not if the generator isn't running, and if it didn't kick in automatically, something's wrong with the fuel system or the starter." They ran to the generator room. The massive Caterpillar diesel sat silent, its control panel showing fault codes Daniel had to look up in the manual he'd memorized years ago. Fuel system blockage. Of course. "This is going to take hours," Tommy said, his voice cracking. "Those people don't have hours." Daniel's radio crackled. He still had his personal one, the one he'd bought himself because the company-issued radios were garbage. "Anyone? Maintenance? Respond?" Janet's voice, broken by interference. He keyed the mic. "Daniel Hayes, what's your status?" "Daniel, thank God. We have a situation—" Static swallowed her words. "Pregnant woman, elevator 7, labor—" His stomach dropped. "Say again? Pregnant woman?" "Elevator 7, between floors 35 and 36, in labor." "Copy that, I'm on it." He ran back to where Lily waited with Tommy. "I need to go up. There's a woman trapped. She's in labor." "How are you going to get up?" Tommy asked. "Stairwells are dark and—" "I know this building in the dark. I've walked every stairwell, every floor, every corridor. I can do it." "I'm coming with you," Lily said. "Absolutely not. Dad—" She looked at him with those eyes that were too old, too knowing. "You might need help, and I'm really good at following directions in emergencies. You said so yourself." She was right. After Sarah died, he'd trained her in basic emergency procedures because that's what you did when you were a single parent with a dangerous job. You prepared for worst-case scenarios. "Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. If I tell you to run, you run. Understood?" "Understood." They started up the east stairwell, Daniel's flashlight cutting through the darkness. 35 floors. In the dark. With his 9-year-old daughter. He counted steps, used muscle memory, checked for debris. Behind him, Lily's breathing stayed even, controlled. They passed people coming down, office workers in suits and heels making their way to safety. Daniel pressed against the wall to let them pass. "Are you going up?" a woman asked. "It's pitch black up there." "I know. Keep going down, stick to the right side of the stairs, count the floors." They climbed. Daniel's legs burned, his lungs ached. Lily didn't complain, didn't ask to slow down. Floor 35. They emerged into the corridor using flashlights to navigate to elevator 7. Daniel could hear voices inside, muffled by thick metal doors. "Hello?" he called. "Fire department?" "No," a man's voice. "Are you fire department?" "Maintenance. My name is Daniel. How many people are in there?" 6. "One's pregnant, very pregnant. Oh God, she's having contractions." Daniel assessed the elevator shaft access panel. Manual override, but he'd need to get the doors open first, then figure out if he could move the car at all. "Okay, listen carefully. I'm going to get you out, but I need you all to stay calm. The pregnant woman, what's her name?" "Michelle?" "Michelle, can you hear me?" A woman's voice strained with pain. "Yes." "I'm Daniel. I'm going to get you out of there, okay? I need you to breathe for me. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Your body knows what to do. It hurts. I know, but you're doing great. Just keep breathing." Lily tugged his sleeve. "Dad, I learned CPR and first aid in Girl Scouts. If you can get them out, I can help her." He looked at his daughter, this fierce, brave little girl who'd watched him get fired this morning and was now offering to help deliver a baby in a dark building. "Okay," he said. "Okay?" He pried open the access panel, found the manual release. The elevator doors were between floors. He could see the bottom of the car about 3 feet above the 35th floor. "I'm going to open the doors," he called. "When I do, I need everyone to stay calm. Don't try to jump out. I'll help you down one at a time. Understood?" Chorus of agreement. Daniel pulled the manual release. The doors ground open. 6 faces stared down at him from the elevator car. 5 terrified, and one woman in business attire with her hands on her swollen belly, breathing hard. "Okay," Daniel said. "Let's get you all out of there." One by one, Daniel helped the trapped employees down from the elevator car. The first man, mid-40s in a rumpled suit, practically fell into Daniel's arms. The second was a younger woman who'd lost her shoes somewhere in the chaos. Then a maintenance worker from another company who looked sheepish about being rescued by someone he'd probably been hired to replace. Michelle came last. Her face was pale, sweat beading on her forehead despite the growing cold in the building. Another contraction hit as Daniel reached for her, and she doubled over with a cry that echoed down the dark corridor. "Easy, easy," Daniel said. "Let it pass. Then we'll get you down." "I can't. I need to push." "Not yet. Not in there. We're going to get you somewhere safer first." Lily appeared at his elbow with a briefcase she'd commandeered from one of the evacuees, fashioned into a makeshift step. Smart kid. Always thinking. "Michelle, I'm Lily," she said with a calmness that belied her age. "My dad's going to help you down, and then we're going to get you comfortable, okay? You're doing really great." Something about Lily's voice seemed to cut through Michelle's panic. She nodded, breathing hard, and let Daniel guide her down. Her weight nearly buckled his knees, not because she was heavy, but because his legs were already screaming from the climb and the adrenaline was starting to fade into exhaustion. They got her to the floor. Michelle immediately sank against the wall, her hands white-knuckled on her belly. "How far along?" Daniel asked. 37 weeks? Not supposed to come yet." Another contraction. Michelle's face contorted. Oh God, that's normal range," Lily said, pulling off her jacket and folding it into a pillow. "My friend's mom had a baby at 36 weeks, and he was totally fine." "How far apart are the contractions?" Maybe 5 minutes?" "Okay, that's early labor still. We have time." Lily looked at Daniel. "Right, Dad?" Daniel had delivered exactly 0 babies in his life, but he nodded like he knew what he was doing. "Right, we have time, but we need to get down." "Can you walk, Michelle?" "I don't think so. Everything hurts, and I feel like—" She stopped, her eyes going wide. "Oh no." "What?" Daniel asked. "My water just broke." A puddle spread beneath her. The other rescued employees, who'd been catching their breath, now looked at each other with expressions ranging from horror to fascination. "Okay," Daniel said, trying to sound confident. "Okay, that's fine. That's normal. It means the baby's coming faster than we thought," Lily finished. She knelt beside Michelle, taking her hand. "It's okay. We've got you. Dad, we can't move her down 35 flights in active labor. We can't deliver a baby in a dark hallway either." "Why not? People used to have babies at home all the time. You just need light and clean supplies and—" "Lily, this is not a Girl Scout camping trip. I know that." For the first time, Lily's voice cracked. "But what else are we supposed to do? Leave her here alone?" Daniel ran his hand through his hair, thinking fast. The building was dark, the elevators were dead, and carrying a woman in active labor down 35 flights of stairs was impossible. He looked at the other employees, but they were office workers, not medical personnel, and they looked about as equipped to handle this as he felt. His radio crackled again. "Daniel? Status?" He stepped away from Michelle, lowering his voice. "Janet, I've got the people out of elevator 7. One's in active labor. I need medical up here now. Fire department is staging on the ground floor. They can't get up without power, and the stairwells are jammed with evacuees. How long until power's restored?" "Static. Then, they're saying hours. Maybe longer." Daniel closed his eyes. Hours. Michelle didn't have hours. "Okay," he said. "Okay, I need you to relay a message to the fire department. Tell them I need a medical kit sent up, first aid supplies, blankets, anything they've got for emergency childbirth. And I need someone to talk me through this if it comes to that." "Copy. Daniel, are you sure about this?" "No, but I don't have a choice." He went back to Michelle. Another contraction hit, harder this time. She screamed, the sound raw and terrified. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "I can't. I need a doctor. I need—" "You can," Lily said firmly. "You're already doing it. Your body knows exactly what to do. I'm scared." "That's okay. Being scared doesn't mean you can't do it. My dad taught me that." Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. Had he taught her that? Or had Sarah? He couldn't remember anymore. The last 3 years were a blur of trying to be both parents, failing at most of it, hoping Lily wouldn't notice all the ways he fell short. One of the other rescued employees, the younger woman who'd lost her shoes, stepped forward. "I'm Rachel. I'm a paralegal, not a doctor, but my sister's a labor and delivery nurse. I've heard enough stories. Maybe I can help?" "Yes," Daniel said immediately. "Thank you." Rachel knelt on Michelle's other side. "Okay, Michelle, I need you to focus on breathing for me. In through your nose, count to 4. Hold. Out through your mouth, count to 4. Can you do that?" Michelle tried, her breath hitching and uneven, but she tried. The man in the rumpled suit who'd introduced himself as Paul from accounting was pacing. "This is insane. We should be evacuating. We should be getting everyone out, not delivering babies in dark hallways." "Feel free to head down," Daniel said without looking at him. "Nobody's stopping you." Paul didn't move. Time became elastic. Contractions came closer together. 4 minutes, then 3. Michelle cycled between terror and exhaustion, gripping Rachel's hand hard enough to leave marks. Lily stayed close, talking in that steady, calm voice, telling stories about anything she could think of to distract from the pain. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell. A firefighter appeared, young and breathing hard from the climb, carrying a medical kit and a backpack of supplies. "Daniel Hayes?" he asked. "That's me. Captain Rodriguez sent me. Said you needed supplies for a delivery?" He looked at Michelle and his eyes widened. "Oh, okay. This is really happening." "Looks like it." The firefighter, his name tag said Morrison, unpacked the kit with practiced efficiency. Sterile gloves, blankets, clamps, a bulb syringe for clearing airways. He pulled out a radio and switched to what Daniel assumed was a medical channel. "Dispatch? This is Morrison on 35. I've got an active labor situation, requesting remote medical support." A woman's voice came through, professional and calm. "Copy that, Morrison. Connecting you with County General. Stand by." Another voice, this one older, with the confidence of someone who'd seen everything. "This is Dr. Patel, County General OB. What's your situation?" Morrison rattled off details. Michelle's vital signs as best he could assess them, contraction frequency, that her water had broken. Dr. Patel asked questions. Morrison relayed them to Michelle. Rachel helped translate the medical jargon. "Okay," Dr. Patel said finally. "She's in active labor, probably transition phase. If she's feeling pressure and the urge to push, we're getting close. Is there anyone there with medical training?" "Paramedic student," Morrison said. "First year." "That'll have to do. I'm going to talk you through this." Another contraction. Michelle's scream turned into something primal, a sound Daniel had never heard a human make. "I need to push," she gasped. "I need to—" "Not yet," Dr. Patel's voice came through the radio. "Morrison, I need you to check if she's fully dilated. Do you know how?" Morrison's face went pale. "In theory?" "Close enough. Glove up." What followed was a crash course in emergency obstetrics delivered via radio in a dark hallway. Morrison checked, his hands shaking despite his training. Michelle bore it with the kind of strength Daniel associated with Marines in combat, pure survival instinct overriding everything else. "She's at 10 centimeters, Morrison said. "Fully dilated. The baby's crowning." "Okay," Dr. Patel said. "This is happening now. When the next contraction comes, Michelle, I need you to push. Not before, not after. Wait for the contraction, then push as hard as you can for a count of 10. Can you do that?" "I don't know," Michelle sobbed. "I can't." "Yes, you can," Rachel said. "You absolutely can. We're all right here with you." "I don't even know you people." "Doesn't matter," Daniel said. He took her other hand, the one Rachel wasn't holding. "We're here now. That's what matters." The next contraction built like a wave. Michelle's entire body tensed. "Now, doctor," Patel commanded. "Push!" Michelle pushed. The sound she made was beyond pain, beyond fear. It was the sound of a body doing what it was built to do, whether the mind agreed or not. "I can see the head," Morrison said, his voice cracking with either excitement or terror. "It's working, Michelle. It's working." "One more," Dr. Patel said. "When the next contraction comes, one more big push." They waited. In the darkness of the stairwell, Daniel could hear other sounds, distant shouts, the wail of sirens outside. the settling groan of a building without power. But in their small circle of flashlight beams, there was only Michelle and the life trying to enter the world. The contraction came. Michelle pushed, and a baby's cry cut through the darkness. Morrison caught the infant, tiny and slick and impossibly alive. He cleared the airways with the bulb syringe, and the crying intensified, angry, indignant, utterly perfect. "It's a girl," Morrison said, his voice thick. "You have a daughter." He wrapped the baby in a blanket and placed her on Michelle's chest. Michelle's hands came up, shaking, cradling the tiny form. "Oh," she breathed. "Oh, hello. Hi." The baby's cries softened, recognizing her mother's voice. In the beam of flashlights, Daniel could see Michelle's face transform, exhaustion and terror giving way to something else entirely. Lily was crying, so was Rachel. Hell, even Paul from accounting looked like he was trying not to. Daniel's radio crackled. "Daniel, you there?" He stepped away, his legs unsteady. "Yeah, Janet, I'm here." "I'm hearing you delivered a baby?" Morrison did most of the work, but yeah, mother and baby are stable. A fire department is working on getting a stretcher team up there. They're rigging some kind of pulley system. Should be maybe 45 minutes. Copy that. He went back to the group. Michelle was nursing, or trying to, the baby making small snuffling sounds. Morrison was checking vitals, making sure everything was progressing normally. The other rescued employees had settled against the walls, looking shell-shocked but quietly amazed. "Dad?" Lily tugged his sleeve. "We need to get the power back on." "I know, sweetheart, but I can't leave them. They've got Morrison and Rachel and everyone else. But the rest of the building still needs help. You said there were people trapped, right? Other elevators?" She was right. In the chaos of the delivery, he'd almost forgotten about the bigger crisis. 3,000 people in the building. How many trapped in elevators? How many injured in the dark? How many with medical conditions that required power? Dialysis machines, oxygen concentrators, the 100 invisible dependencies modern life created? "Morrison," Daniel said. "You good here?" The young firefighter looked up, his gloves covered in blood, his face pale but determined. Yeah, we're good. Dr. Patel's staying on the line. Stretcher team is coming. We've got this." "Okay." Daniel looked at Lily. "Okay, let's go fix this building." They left Michelle and her daughter in the circle of flashlights and headed back to the stairwell. Down was easier than up, but Daniel's legs were shot and his back was screaming. Lily stayed close, her breathing heavy but steady. "That was amazing," she said as they descended. "What Michelle did, what you did. I didn't do anything. Morrison and Dr. Patel, you stayed. You could have left, could have said it wasn't your problem, but you stayed." Daniel didn't have a response to that. They kept moving. They reached the basement to find Tommy exactly where they'd left him, staring at the dead generator like he could will it back to life through sheer frustration. "How's the fuel blockage?" Daniel asked. "Bad. There's sludge in the lines, the filter's compromised, and I think the fuel pump might be shot too. I've been trying to bypass it, but show me." They worked in the semi-darkness, flashlights clamped in their teeth, hands covered in diesel fuel and grease. The generator was old, probably original to the building, and it had been maintained the way corporations maintain things, just enough to avoid catastrophic failure until catastrophic failure happened anyway. "If we bypass the primary fuel line and run directly from the tank through this secondary valve," Daniel said, tracing the system with his finger, "we might be able to get enough flow to start it. Won't be pretty, won't be sustainable long term, but it'll run. That valve hasn't been opened in 20 years. It might be seized. Then we unseize it." They worked for what felt like hours but was probably 40 minutes. Lily stayed nearby, holding flashlights, passing tools, occasionally asking questions that helped Daniel think through problems. She was good at this, he realized. Patient, methodical, unflappable. Sarah would have been proud. Finally, the bypass was complete. Daniel stood at the generator's control panel, his hands black with grease, his back one solid knot of pain. "Moment of truth," he said, and pressed the start button. Nothing happened. "Come on," Tommy muttered. "Come on, you bastard." Daniel pressed it again. The generator coughed, sputtered, and died. "Third time's the charm," Lily said. Daniel pressed the button again. The generator roared to life. The sound was the most beautiful thing Daniel had ever heard, the deep, powerful rumble of a massive diesel engine doing what it was built to do. Lights flickered on throughout the basement, dim at first, then stronger as the system stabilized. "We've got power," Tommy said, his voice breaking. "Oh my God, we've got power." But Daniel was already at the electrical panel, assessing the damage. The main system was still fried. The generator could provide emergency power, but not full building functionality. Elevators were still dead. HVAC was still down. They were running on maybe 40% capacity. "It's not enough," Daniel said. "The generator can keep emergency lighting and basic systems running, but we need the main power restored to get elevators operational, to get full climate control to—" "One problem at a time," Tommy interrupted. "We've got light. We've got some power. That's better than nothing." Daniel's radio came alive with chatter. Firefighters coordinating, security doing roll calls, managers trying to figure out what was happening. And underneath it all, Janet's voice. "Daniel, if you're hearing this, the fire chief wants to talk to you." He switched channels. "Hayes here." "Mr. Hayes, this is Chief Brennan. I understand you're the maintenance supervisor for this building?" "Was. I got fired this morning." A pause. "I'm sorry?" "Long story. What do you need, Chief?" "I need someone who knows this building inside and out to help coordinate rescue and evacuation. We've got 4 elevators still trapped with people inside, unknown number of injuries, and a structure that's partially compromised. Can you help us?" Daniel looked at Tommy, then at Lily. His daughter nodded. "Yeah, Chief, I can help." "Good. I'm sending a team down to your location. We need to establish a command post in that mechanical room. And Mr. Hayes, whatever they're paying you, you're earning it today." "They're not paying me anything. I'm doing this for free." Another pause. "Then you're a better man than most. Stand by." The next 2 hours blurred into a controlled chaos of rescue operations. Daniel guided firefighter teams to each trapped elevator, talking them through manual release procedures, explaining which ones could be safely opened from which floors. Tommy monitored the generator, making sure it didn't overheat or run out of fuel. Lily became a runner, carrying messages between teams, her small size letting her navigate crowded stairwells faster than adults. They got people out. A diabetic woman on floor 42, her blood sugar crashing, who Daniel helped guide down 12 flights of stairs. An elderly man with a pacemaker on floor 28 who needed to be carried on a stretcher. 2 security guards who'd been trapped in a maintenance closet when the power failed and the electronic lock engaged. The building slowly came back to life, or at least to a state of managed crisis. Emergency lighting throughout, some climate control, enough power to run essential systems. Not perfect, but functional. Daniel was coordinating with a firefighter team on floor 18 when he heard Vanessa Hale's voice cut through the radio chatter. "Someone get me a status update now. I need to know if we can resume operations, if the Mizuki deal is still viable, if—" "Ms. Hale," Chief Brennan's voice was sharp. "With respect, your priority right now should be the safety of everyone in this building, not business operations." "I'm well aware of the priorities, Chief. I'm asking about resuming operations because I have 3,000 employees whose jobs depend on—" "Your building is running on emergency power," Daniel cut in before he could stop himself. "The main electrical system is catastrophically compromised. Even if I could restore full power, which I can't with the equipment available, the entire electrical infrastructure needs to be inspected and likely replaced before this building is safe for normal operations. You're looking at days, maybe weeks." Silence on the radio. Then, "Who is this?" "Daniel Hayes, the maintenance supervisor you fired this morning." Another silence, longer this time. "Mr. Hayes is currently coordinating rescue operations," Chief Brennan said, "and from what I understand, doing a damn good job of it. Ms. Hale, I need you to evacuate to the command post on the ground floor. We'll brief you there." "I don't take orders. Ma'am, this is not a request. Evacuate now, or I'll send officers to escort you." The radio went quiet. Daniel kept working. Another elevator freed, another group of trapped employees guided to safety. The sun moved across the sky, visible through windows and sections of the building with emergency lighting. His body moved on autopilot, muscle memory and training taking over when conscious thought failed. It was past 4 p.m. when he finally made it back to the basement. Lily was sitting against the wall, her jacket bunched under her head as a pillow, fast asleep. Tommy sat nearby, monitoring the generator, his face gray with exhaustion. Last elevator's clear, Daniel reported. Everyone's accounted for except the Mizuki delegation. The who? Some big deal Hale was working on. Japanese investors, I think. They were in the conference room on 50 when the power went out. They still up there? Apparently they refused to evacuate, said leaving mid-negotiation would be disrespectful or something. Tommy laughed, slightly hysterical. So they're just sitting in the dark, negotiating? Apparently. A commotion in the basement corridor made them both look up. Vanessa Hale swept in, flanked by Chief Brennan and 2 firefighters. She looked different than she had this morning, hair disheveled, expensive suit rumpled, the perfect professional armor cracked. Her eyes found Daniel immediately. "Mr. Hayes," she said, "we need to talk." Daniel straightened from where he'd been checking fuel levels on the generator. His back protested, every muscle in his body screaming for rest he wasn't going to get. "Ms. Hale." She looked at Lily asleep against the wall, then back at Daniel. Something flickered across her face, discomfort, maybe, or shame. Hard to tell in the emergency lighting. "Chief Brennan tells me you've been instrumental in the rescue operations," she said. "I know the building." "Yes." She paused. "I need your help with something else. The Mizuki delegation is still on the 50th floor. They're refusing to evacuate, and they're threatening to pull out of a $2 billion deal if we can't provide them with—" She stopped, seeming to hear herself. "They need power restored to the executive floor, immediately." Daniel stared at her. "You're not serious. Mr. Tanaka is very traditional. Walking out of a negotiation is considered— I don't care what it's considered. There are still people in this building who need help. Real help, not negotiation lighting." "I understand that, but do you?" The words came out harder than Daniel intended. "Do you understand that there's a woman on floor 35 who gave birth in a dark hallway because this building's maintenance was deferred so long that everything failed at once? Do you understand that we're running on a generator that should have been replaced 5 years ago, held together with bypass systems and luck? That people could have died today because someone decided quarterly profits were more important than functional infrastructure?" Vanessa's face went pale. Chief Brennan shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Hayes," the chief said carefully, "I understand you're exhausted." "I'm not exhausted, Chief. I'm angry. I spent 15 years keeping this building running, warning about failures, documenting problems. And this morning I was fired for being too expensive. Now Ms. Hale wants me to prioritize her business deal over people's safety. Again." "That's not what I'm saying," Vanessa said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Then what are you saying?" She opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time since Daniel had known her, admittedly not well, just the handful of times their paths had crossed in 15 years, she looked uncertain. "I'm saying I was wrong," she said finally. "About this morning, about firing you. Chief Brennan explained what you've done today, and I—" She stopped, visibly struggling. "I made a mistake." "A mistake?" Daniel's laugh was bitter. "That's one word for it." "I'm trying to apologize." "Are you? Because it sounds like you're trying to get me to fix your problem so your deal doesn't fall apart." "Both," she admitted. "I need your help. The company needs your help. And yes, I was wrong to fire you. Does that help?" Daniel looked at Tommy, who was watching the exchange with barely concealed fascination. Then at Lily, still asleep, exhausted from a day that should have been a fun visit to her dad's workplace. "No," Daniel said. "It doesn't help. Because here's the thing, Ms. Hale. You didn't fire me because I was bad at my job. You fired me because maintenance workers are expendable in your worldview. We're line items on a budget, not people. And now that you need something, suddenly I matter again. But tomorrow, next week, next quarter, when the crisis passes and the budget meetings start, I'll be expendable again." "That's not fair." "Fair?" Daniel felt something break loose in his chest. 3 years of grief and exhaustion and trying to hold everything together for Lily. "You want to talk about fair? My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. We had insurance through this job, your insurance, and it covered maybe 60% of the treatment. I've got medical debt that'll take me a decade to pay off. I work doubles. I skip meals. I do everything I can to give my daughter a stable life. And this morning, you looked me in the eye and told me I was being replaced by a cheaper contractor. So no, Ms. Hale, I don't think you get to talk to me about fair." The silence in the mechanical room was absolute, except for the rumble of the generator. Vanessa looked like she'd been slapped. Chief Brennan studied the floor. Tommy didn't move. "I didn't know," Vanessa said quietly. "About your wife. About the medical debt. Why would you? I was just the maintenance guy." That's not... She stopped, and Daniel saw her really understand what he was saying. "You're right. I didn't see you. Any of you. I saw problems and solutions in quarterly reports, but I didn't see the people." "And now you do?" "I'm trying to." Daniel rubbed his face, feeling every one of his 53 years. The Mizuki delegation. What exactly do they need? Power to the conference room, lighting, climate control, the presentation system, enough to complete the meeting professionally. That's going to require rerouting power from other floors, which means some sections lose what little emergency power they have. I understand. Do you? Because what you're asking me to do is prioritize your business deal over the safety margins we've established. If something else fails while I'm doing this, if someone gets hurt because I pulled power from the wrong system, then I take responsibility, Vanessa said. Not you, not Tommy, me. It's my decision, my company, my liability. Daniel looked at her, trying to read whether she meant it. Her face was drawn, makeup smudged, the perfect CEO armor completely stripped away. She looked human. Scared, even. I need access to the executive floor systems, Daniel said finally, and I need authorization to do whatever's necessary, in writing. You'll have it. And when this crisis is over, we're going to have a conversation about this building's infrastructure. Real conversation with engineers and inspectors, and a budget that actually addresses problems instead of deferring them. Agreed. And Tommy gets a raise, significant raise, along with everyone else in the maintenance department. Vanessa actually smiled, thin but genuine. Anything else? Yeah. You reinstate my employment, full benefits, back pay from today, and a written apology. Done. Daniel blinked. He'd expected more resistance, more negotiation. Just like that? Just like that. Mr. Hayes, I've made a lot of decisions today that I'm going to have to live with. This is the first one I feel good about. Tommy let out a low whistle. Chief Brennan looked impressed. Okay then, Daniel said. Let's go save your deal. He woke Lily gently. She blinked up at him, disoriented. Dad, what time is it? Late. I need to do one more thing. You can stay here with Tommy if you want. I'm coming with you. She stood, stretching. What are we doing? Saving a $2 billion business deal, apparently. Cool. They took the stairs up, Daniel, Lily, and Vanessa. The CEO tried to keep pace but struggled after 15 floors. Daniel slowed, letting her catch her breath. I don't usually take the stairs, she admitted. Most people don't. That's why emergency evacuations are so dangerous. Nobody knows how to navigate 50 floors on foot. They climbed in silence for a while. Then Vanessa said, Your daughter is remarkable. Chief Brennan told me she helped deliver a baby. She did more than help. She kept the mother calm, stayed focused, didn't panic. She's better in a crisis than most adults. Where did she learn that? From my wife. Sarah was a paramedic. She believed in teaching Lily real skills, not just academics. First aid, crisis management, how to stay calm when everything's falling apart. She sounds like an amazing person. She was. They reached the 50th floor. The executive corridor was eerie in the emergency lighting, all those expensive finishes reduced to shadows and dim red bulbs. Voices came from conference room A, speaking in Japanese. Vanessa knocked, then opened the door. 5 people sat around the table, lit by flashlights and what looked like phone screens. Mr. Tanaka, who Daniel recognized from photos in the lobby, sat at the head. His expression was unreadable. Vanessa spoke in Japanese. Apparently she was fluent, which Daniel hadn't known. Mr. Tanaka responded, his tone formal, but not hostile. They went back and forth for maybe 2 minutes, then Vanessa turned to Daniel. Mr. Tanaka says they're willing to wait 1 hour. If we can restore full power to this room within that time, the negotiation can continue. If not, they'll consider the situation a sign of organizational instability and withdraw. No pressure, Daniel muttered. Okay. I need access to the electrical closet. Floor 51 has the junction box that controls this level. They climbed one more floor. Daniel's legs were beyond pain now, operating on some reserves he didn't know he had. Lily stayed close, her hand occasionally touching his back, checking on him, making sure he was okay. The electrical closet was locked. Daniel pulled out his multi-tool, working the lock with practiced ease. Inside was a maze of circuit breakers and junction boxes, all labeled in the cryptic shorthand electricians used. Lily, I need you to hold the light steady. Right here, he pointed. She positioned herself, her small flashlight beam perfectly still. Daniel traced circuits, identifying which systems he could safely divert power from. Residential floors were mostly evacuated. He could pull from there. The gym and pool on 46 had nobody in them. The cafeteria on 12 was closed for the day. He worked quickly, rewiring connections, rerouting power flows, creating a temporary system that would give Conference Room A full power without completely draining emergency systems elsewhere. It wasn't elegant, wasn't sustainable, but it would work for an hour. Vanessa, he called, try the lights in the conference room. A moment later, they're on. Climate control is starting too. Presentation system? Give me a second. Pause. Yes, everything's working. Daniel closed the electrical panel, his hands shaking from exhaustion. That'll hold for about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. After that, the jury-rigged connections are going to start overheating, and I'll need to shut it down. That's more than enough time. Thank you. They went back down. Mr. Tanaka and his delegation were already resettling in Conference Room A, now brightly lit and climate-controlled. Mr. Tanaka caught Daniel's eye and nodded, a small gesture of respect that somehow meant more than any words could have. Vanessa walked Daniel and Lily back to the stairwell. I meant what I said earlier about the apology, about everything. We'll see, Daniel said. You don't trust me. Would you, in my position? She considered that. No, I wouldn't, but I'm going to prove it to you anyway. Because what happened today, she gestured vaguely at the building. This can't happen again. And the only way to prevent it is to actually listen to people like you who've been warning about these problems all along. People like me, Daniel repeated. I didn't mean, I know what you meant, and you're right. The Tommies and Janets and every other person working in this building who isn't in a corner office. We see things you don't. Not because we're smarter, but because we're closer to the ground. We see the cracks before they become chasms. Then I need to start listening, Vanessa said. Really listening. Yeah, you do. They descended back to the basement. The generator was still running, steady and strong, despite being held together with bypasses and temporary fixes. Tommy had been joined by 2 other maintenance workers, both of whom looked at Daniel with expressions of relief and exhaustion. Power's stable, Tommy reported. No major fluctuations. But Daniel, we're going to run out of fuel in maybe 12 hours. The main tank is drawing down faster than I expected. Did you check the secondary reserve? Didn't know there was one. Under the floor, southeast corner. There's a hatch hidden under the workbench. Should have another 8 hours of fuel there. Tommy stared. How did you know about that? I helped install it 20 years ago. Before this was Hale Tower, when it was still Sterling Properties. The original building engineer was paranoid about fuel supply, had a hidden reserve put in that never made it to the official plans. 20 years, Tommy said. You've really been here that long. Longer. I was part of the renovation crew before I was hired as maintenance. This building, Daniel looked around the mechanical room at the systems he'd kept alive for so long. I know every hidden space, every unofficial modification, every secret this place has. That's why we need you, Vanessa said. She'd followed them down, refusing to go back to the executive floor. That kind of institutional knowledge is irreplaceable. It's also inconvenient, Daniel countered, because I know where all the bodies are buried, figuratively speaking. I know every code violation that got overlooked, every inspection that got rushed, every time maintenance was deferred to make budget numbers look good. I'm not afraid of that. You should be, because if I come back, if I take this job again, I'm not staying quiet anymore. I'm documenting everything. I'm copying Chief Brennan and the fire marshal and the city inspectors on every report. No more letting things slide to keep executives happy. Good, Vanessa said. That's exactly what I want you to do. Daniel studied her face, looking for the catch, but she seemed genuine. Scared, maybe, of what he might uncover, but genuine. His radio crackled. Daniel, it's Janet. We've got a situation. What kind of situation? Security cameras just came back online with the emergency power. I'm seeing something weird on floor 42. Looks like someone's in the server room. Daniel frowned. Should be evacuated. Everyone's out, right? That's what I thought, but there's definitely someone in there. 2 people, actually. Probably IT doing damage control, checking servers after the power failure. That's what I figured, except... Janet paused. Daniel, they're not checking equipment. They're removing drives, like physically pulling server drives and putting them in bags. The mechanical room went quiet. Show me, Daniel said. They crowded around Janet's security station. Daniel, Vanessa, Tommy, and Chief Brennan, who'd materialized from wherever fire chiefs go during crises. The security monitors showed grainy footage of the server room on floor 42. 2 figures in dark clothing were methodically removing hard drives from server racks, working quickly and efficiently. That's not IT, Vanessa said, her voice tight. IT wears badges. Those people don't have any visible identification. Can you zoom in? Daniel asked. Janet manipulated the controls. The image quality was terrible, but good enough to see details. One figure was tall and thin, moving with nervous energy. The other was shorter, more methodical. Wait, Vanessa said. Go back. Zoom in on the shorter one. Janet did. The figure turned slightly toward the camera, and even in the poor image quality, Daniel saw Vanessa's face go white. That's Philip, she said. Philip Carver, my chief of staff. Your what? Chief Brennan asked. My chief of staff. He's been with me for 7 years. He has access to everything. My calendar, my emails, my strategic plans. If he's stealing server data... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Who's the other person? Daniel asked. I don't know, but Philip has been acting strange lately, distracted, taking calls he wouldn't explain. Vanessa pulled out her phone, started scrolling. 3 weeks ago, I caught him in my office after hours. He said he was leaving me a report, but you didn't completely believe him, Daniel finished. No, but he's been loyal for so long, I didn't want to think... She stopped. We need to stop them, now. Agreed, Chief Brennan said. But we need to be smart about this. If they're stealing data, they might have an exit strategy. Janet, where's the nearest stairwell to the server room? East stairs, about 30 feet from the server room door. Can you lock it remotely? Not without full power. Electronic locks are offline. Then we do this manually, Daniel said. Chief, you have officers who can secure the stairwell? I can have a team there in 5 minutes. Make it 3. Once they realize we're onto them, they'll run. Chief Brennan started giving orders into his radio. Vanessa was still staring at the security monitor, watching her chief of staff systematically betray her. 7 years, she said quietly. I trusted him completely. Daniel felt an unexpected surge of sympathy. He knew what betrayal felt like. Different circumstances, maybe, but the same hollow ache. We should go up there, Vanessa said. Confront him. That's a terrible idea, Daniel said. We don't know if they're armed, if there are others helping them, what they'll do if cornered. I don't care. He's stealing from my company. I want to know why. Ms. Hale, it's Vanessa, and I'm going, with or without you. Daniel looked at Chief Brennan, who shrugged. She's technically right. It's her building, her property. We can't stop her. Fine, Daniel said. But I'm coming too, and Lily stays here. Dad, no arguments. You've done enough today. Stay with Tommy. Lily looked mutinous, but nodded. Daniel hugged her quickly, then followed Vanessa and Chief Brennan to the stairs. They climbed to 42, moving quietly. Daniel's body was screaming now, every step an exercise in willpower. Behind him, he could hear Vanessa's breathing getting ragged. Only Chief Brennan seemed unaffected, maintaining the kind of fitness that came from regular training. The 42nd floor was dark except for emergency lighting. They moved down the corridor toward the server room, where light spilled from the partially open door. Daniel heard voices inside, urgent, arguing. Need to move faster. They'll notice soon. I'm going as fast as I can. These drives are encrypted. I need to disable security before removing them. Just yank them. We can decrypt later. That could corrupt the data. I don't care. We're running out of time. Chief Brennan held up a hand, signaling them to wait. His officers were moving into position, blocking the stairwells, sealing the exits. Then everything went wrong. The shorter figure, Philip, emerged from the server room carrying a bag full of drives. He saw them immediately. His face cycled through surprise, fear, and something else. Calculation. Vanessa, he said, his voice eerily calm. I can explain. I doubt that, Vanessa said. You don't understand what's at stake. Then explain it. Why are you stealing from me? Philip's face hardened. I'm not stealing. I'm protecting myself from you. From me? You're going to sell. The Mizuki deal. It's not an investment, it's a buyout. And when they take over, they're going to clean house. Everyone who knows where the bodies are buried, everyone who's seen the questionable accounting, the offshore transfers. What offshore transfers? Vanessa's voice was sharp. Don't play innocent. I handle your accounts. I've seen the transactions. Money moving to places it shouldn't, payments to people who don't exist. You're running a fraud operation right under everyone's noses, and when Mizuki uncovers it, you're going to throw everyone else under the bus to save yourself. That's insane, Vanessa said. There are no offshore accounts. No fraud. I don't know what you think you saw. I saw Marcus Webb's signatures. Payments authorized for maintenance budgets. Millions going to shell companies. You and Marcus have been running this together, and I'm not going down with you. Daniel felt ice in his stomach. Marcus Webb. His former boss, the man who'd been systematically burying his maintenance requests. Suddenly, the deferred maintenance, the ignored warnings, the budget cuts all made a different kind of sense. Philip, Vanessa said carefully, I don't know what Marcus has been doing, but I'm not involved. Whatever you think you saw, I have proof, Philip said. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket. Everything's on here, and if you try to stop me, if you call the police, this goes public. Your reputation, your company, everything burns. That sounds like blackmail, Chief Brennan said. It's survival, Philip shot back. He looked at the second figure still in the server room. Kevin, we're leaving. Now. Kevin emerged, a young man, maybe 30, wearing an IT badge. He looked terrified. Please, Kevin said. I didn't know it would be like this. Philip said we were just backing up files, protecting data. Shut up, Philip snapped. He told me the company was going bankrupt, that we needed to preserve records before everything got seized. I said, shut up. Chief Brennan moved, his hand going to his radio. This is Brennan. Subjects are attempting to flee. Intercept at... Philip ran. Not toward the stairs, but toward the exterior window at the end of the corridor. Daniel realized what he was doing a half-second before it happened. Stop, Daniel shouted. Don't! Philip smashed the emergency fire axe through the window. Glass exploded outward. 42 floors up, the wind howled in. Are you insane? Vanessa screamed. You'll die! I'd rather die than go to prison. Philip was at the window now, looking down. There's a maintenance scaffold 10 floors down. I can make it. That scaffold is rated for equipment, not people, Daniel said, moving closer. And it's not designed for impact loading. If you jump, you'll go straight through it. You're lying. I'm not. I installed that scaffold. I know its limitations. Please, Philip, step away from the window. For a moment, Philip hesitated. His face was a mask of fear and desperation, a man who'd convinced himself he had no options. Then Kevin tackled him. The young IT worker hit Philip from the side, driving him away from the window. They went down in a tangle of limbs, the bag of server drives spilling across the floor. Chief Brennan and his officers were there in seconds, pulling them apart, securing them both in restraints. Philip was sobbing. You don't understand. Marcus said if I didn't help him, he'd destroy me. He has evidence I falsified reports, that I was stealing. It was all fabricated, but he said no one would believe me. Marcus Webb put you up to this? Vanessa asked. He's been embezzling for years, using maintenance budgets as cover, creating fake vendor contracts. He needed someone on the executive floor who could move money without questions. I tried to refuse, but he had too much on me. Fake evidence, but it looked real. Vanessa's face had gone from pale to flushed. Where's Marcus now? I don't know. He was supposed to meet us after the evacuation, Help us get the drives off site. But he never showed. Daniel's radio crackled, Tommy's voice urgent. Daniel, we've got a problem. Big problem. What kind? The generator. Someone's tampered with it. Fuel lines have been cut. Coolant system's been drained. I found it 2 minutes ago. We've got maybe 15 minutes before it overheats and shuts down. That's not possible. The generator room is locked. Locks don't mean much when you have maintenance credentials, Tommy said. Daniel, I think someone's trying to make sure this building stays dark. Daniel looked at Vanessa. They both said it at the same time. Marcus. Daniel was already moving, hitting the stairwell at a run despite his exhausted legs. Behind him, he heard Chief Brennan barking orders into his radio and Vanessa's footsteps echoing as she tried to keep up. Tommy, listen to me, Daniel said into his radio as he descended. Don't try to fix it yourself. Get everyone out of the mechanical room. If that generator goes critical, I know what happens, Tommy interrupted. But Daniel, Lily's down here. She won't leave without you. Daniel's heart dropped into his stomach. He took the stairs 3 at a time now, using the handrails to swing around corners, his body moving on instinct while his mind screamed that his daughter was in danger. He hit the basement at a full sprint. The mechanical room door was open, and he could hear the generator's pitch changing, the healthy rumble becoming something higher, stressed, wrong. Lily stood near the control panel, her face pale but determined. Tommy was beside her, both of them staring at the temperature gauge that was climbing into the red zone. I told you to get out, Daniel said, pulling Lily away from the equipment. I tried, Tommy said. She wouldn't go. Dad, look! Lily pointed at the floor near the generator. Footprints in the dust leading away toward the service corridor. Fresh footprints, made within the last few minutes. Daniel knelt, examining them. Work boots, size 11 or 12. The tread pattern was familiar. The same boots every maintenance worker in the building wore, issued by the company. Marcus was just here, Daniel said. Minutes ago, maybe less. How long until the generator fails? Vanessa asked from the doorway. She was breathing hard, her face flushed from the climb down. Daniel checked the gauges. Coolant was gone. Fuel pressure was dropping. Temperature climbing. 10 minutes. Maybe 12 if we're lucky. Can you fix it? Not without coolant, and the reserve tank has been drained too. I'd need to source coolant from somewhere else, and even then... He stopped, his mind racing through the building's systems. The HVAC chillers. They use a similar coolant compound. If I can siphon from chiller 2, the one that's not dying, Tommy asked. That one. I'll need help carrying it. Lily, you're going with Vanessa. Up to ground level. Now. Dad, no arguments. This is not a discussion. Lily's face crumpled, but she nodded. Vanessa took her hand, and they disappeared into the stairwell. Daniel and Tommy ran to the chiller room. The equipment hummed with the effort of keeping at least some climate control running on emergency power. Daniel found the drain valve on chiller 2, positioned a collection barrel underneath. This is going to take too long, Tommy said, watching the coolant drip out at what felt like glacial speed. I know. Daniel grabbed a wrench, disconnected the entire coolant line. The liquid gushed out now, filling the barrel quickly. Help me carry this. They hauled the barrel back to the generator room, coolant sloshing over the sides, burning their hands with its chemical bite. The temperature gauge was deep in the red now, warning lights flashing, automatic shutdown protocols trying to engage but failing because Marcus had disabled them too. Daniel opened the generator's coolant reservoir and started pouring. The liquid steamed where it hit hot metal, filling the room with acrid vapor that burned their lungs. Is it enough? Tommy asked. I don't know. Daniel kept pouring until the barrel was empty, then checked the reservoir level. 3/4 full. Not ideal, but maybe enough to prevent immediate catastrophic failure. He moved to the control panel, trying to restart the cooling system. The pump engaged, then immediately shut down again. The fuel lines, Tommy said, they're still cut. Even with coolant, if we don't have fuel pressure... I know. Daniel was already crawling under the generator housing, flashlight in his teeth, looking for the damaged lines. He found them quickly. Clean cuts, deliberate sabotage. Marcus had known exactly where to strike. I need the emergency repair kit, Daniel called. Red box, top shelf in the storage closet. Tommy ran. Daniel pulled out his multi-tool, cutting away the damaged sections of fuel line. His hands were shaking from exhaustion and adrenaline, making the work harder than it should be. Tommy returned with the kit. Inside were compression fittings, replacement line segments, everything Daniel needed for a temporary repair. He worked quickly, replacing the cut sections, securing them with fittings that would hold for a few hours at most. Tommy, when I tell you I need you to restart the fuel pump. The switch is on the left side of the control panel, red toggle. Got it. Daniel made the final connection, tightening it until his hands cramped. Now! Tommy hit the switch. The fuel pump engaged with a grinding sound that suggested Marcus had damaged it too, but it worked. Fuel pressure started climbing. The generator's pitch changed, smoothing out slightly. The temperature gauge stopped climbing, held steady, then started to drop. Is it working? Tommy asked. For now. Daniel crawled out from under the housing, his body screaming in protest. But this is all temporary fixes. We need to find Marcus before he does something else. His radio crackled. Daniel, it's Janet. I just spotted someone on the security cameras. Service entrance. Looks like they're trying to leave the building. Can you see who? It's dark, but yeah, it's Marcus. He's carrying something. Looks like a laptop bag and a briefcase. Stop him, Daniel said. Lock down that entrance. Already done. But Daniel, he's not heading outside. He just went into the parking garage. The parking garage? Underground. Connected to the building with multiple exits to different streets. If Marcus made it to his car, he could disappear. Chief Brennan, you copy? Daniel said into the radio. Copy. My people are moving to intercept. He knows this building as well as I do. He'll know the fire response protocols, where your people will stage. He's going to avoid main routes. So where would he go? Daniel thought fast, visualizing the building's layout. The loading dock, there's a vehicle ramp that connects the parking garage to the loading area. He can drive out that way, avoid the main entrance completely. On it. Daniel looked at Tommy. Stay here. Keep the generator running. If anything changes, I'll radio immediately. Daniel ran for the stairs again, his body beyond exhaustion now, operating on something else entirely. Pure will, maybe, or the rage that had been building since this morning when Vanessa had fired him. He emerged into the parking garage to find chaos. Police lights strobed in the darkness, officers shouting, the sound of engines. Chief Brennan stood at a command point near the entrance, coordinating the search. Any sign of him? Daniel asked. Negative. We've got 3 exits covered, but he's going for the loading dock, Daniel insisted. I know how he thinks. My people are there. Are they watching the maintenance access tunnel? Brennan frowned. What maintenance access tunnel? There's a service tunnel that runs from the parking garage to the loading dock. It's not on the official plans because it was part of the original building before the renovations. Marcus knows about it. He has to. Show me. Daniel led them through the garage, past rows of expensive cars covered in dust from the day's chaos. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind what looked like a solid wall, but Daniel knew the trick, a panel that slid aside if you knew where to push. The tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. Their footsteps echoed off concrete walls. This is insane, one of the officers muttered. How does a tunnel just not be on the plans? Because the renovation company was corrupt, Daniel said. They got paid to update the plans but never actually did it, just copied the old ones and charged for new surveys. Marcus and I discovered it 5 years ago during an inspection. I reported it. He obviously remembered. They moved quickly but carefully, weapons drawn for the officers, Daniel unarmed but leading the way. The tunnel curved, descended, then opened into a small chamber that connected to the loading dock. Marcus was there. He had his back to them, working on a door that led to the loading area. His laptop bag was at his feet, the briefcase open beside it, papers scattered where he'd clearly been going through files. Marcus, Daniel said. Marcus spun, his face cycling through surprise and then calculation. He wasn't a physically imposing man, average height, soft from desk work, but there was something dangerous in his eyes now. Daniel, I should have known you'd figure it out. Was any of it real? Daniel asked. 15 years of working together. Did any of that matter, or was I just convenient? You were convenient, Marcus said flatly. You were loyal, competent, and you asked too many questions. That last part became a problem. So you set me up to be fired. I recommended the Titan contract, suggested to Vanessa that it was time to modernize. But firing you specifically? That was her decision. I just made sure she saw you as an obstacle to progress. And the embezzlement? How long have you been stealing? Marcus laughed, the sound bitter. Stealing. I was taking what I was owed. You know how much Vanessa makes? How much the executives pull in while we keep the building running? I spent 20 years in this place. And for what? A salary that barely covers my mortgage and an ulcer from the stress. So yes, I took money. I created vendor contracts, maintenance purchases that never happened, and I pocketed the difference. And I would have gotten away with it if Philip hadn't started asking questions. So you blackmailed him, Chief Brennan said. Convinced him to help you. I convinced him that his choices were help me or go down with me. Same thing, really. And today? Daniel asked. The generator sabotage? You could have killed people. No one was going to die. The building was already evacuated. I just needed time to get out with my insurance policy. He gestured at the laptop. Everything's on here. Every shady deal Vanessa's made, every corner she's cut, if she comes after me, this goes public. Except you're wrong, Vanessa's voice came from behind them. She emerged from the tunnel, flanked by 2 more officers. There are no shady deals, Marcus, because I don't operate that way. Then explain the offshore accounts. What offshore accounts? The ones I created in your name, with your forged signature. When this investigation begins, they'll find transfers from Hale Tower accounts to offshore shells, all authorized by you. I've been building this insurance policy for 2 years, Vanessa. If I go down, you go down harder. The silence in the chamber was absolute. You son of a bitch, Vanessa said softly. You've been setting me up this whole time. I've been protecting myself. You were always going to sell eventually. And when you did, everyone who knew where the bodies were buried was going to be eliminated. I just made sure I had leverage. So you sabotaged your own building, Daniel said. You cut maintenance budgets to embezzle, which caused today's failure, which gave you cover to steal more while everyone was distracted. And you would have let people die if it meant you could escape. No one was going to die, Marcus repeated. I calculated the risks. The generator would have shut down cleanly. The backup systems failed because you deferred maintenance on them. Daniel interrupted. Your embezzlement meant we couldn't replace critical equipment. The chiller that's dying? I requested a replacement 6 months ago. You buried the request. The elevator cables that are fraying? I documented that failure 3 times. You buried every report because fixing things meant less money you could steal. So, yes, Marcus, people could have died today. Michelle and her baby could have died. Everyone trapped in those elevators could have died, and it would have been your fault. Marcus's face had gone pale. I never intended. But you did, Vanessa said. You chose money over safety, over people's lives. Says the woman who fired her most experienced maintenance supervisor to save money. The accusation hung in the air. Vanessa flinched. She's right about that, Daniel said quietly. You want to talk about choosing money over people? This morning she looked me in the eye and told me I was being replaced by a cheaper contractor. So yeah, Marcus is a thief and a saboteur. But you, Vanessa? You're the one who created the environment where people like Marcus thrive. Daniel, no, you need to hear this. You built a system where people are disposable, where maintenance is seen as a cost to minimize rather than an investment in safety. You hired executives who viewed every worker as a line item to cut. And you were so far removed from the actual operation of this building that you didn't see what was happening until it all fell apart. So Marcus is going to jail, and he should. But you need to take a long look at how you got here. Vanessa opened her mouth, closed it. For a moment, Daniel thought she might argue. Then she nodded, her eyes shining with something that might have been tears. You're right, she said. You're absolutely right. Chief Brennan's officers moved forward, placing Marcus in handcuffs. He didn't resist, just stood there looking defeated and small. The laptop, Brennan said to one of his officers. Secure that as evidence. They led Marcus away. His footsteps echoed in the tunnel, growing fainter until he was gone. Daniel sagged against the wall, every ounce of adrenaline draining from his body at once. His legs gave out, and he slid down to sit on the cold concrete floor. Vanessa sat down beside him. They stayed like that for a while, not speaking, just breathing. I don't know how to fix this, Vanessa said finally. The company, the culture, all of it. I don't even know where to start. Start by listening, Daniel said. To people like me, like Tommy, like every person working in this building who sees problems and tries to report them. Create systems where those reports actually matter, where safety isn't negotiable. Will you help me? I know I have no right to ask, but I'll think about it, Daniel said. Right now, I need to see my daughter and then sleep for about 3 days. They stood, helping each other up. Back through the tunnel, through the parking garage, up the stairs one final time. Daniel's body moved on autopilot, muscle memory carrying him when conscious thought failed. The lobby was crowded with people, evacuees being processed, emergency personnel coordinating, reporters being held back by security. Daniel spotted Lily immediately, sitting with Tommy near the security desk. She saw him and ran, crashing into him with enough force to nearly knock him down. "Dad, are you okay? Did you catch him?" "I'm okay. We caught him. It's over." "Good." She squeezed him tighter. "Can we go home now?" "Yes, sweetheart, we can go home." But as they turned toward the exit, Wumpu, a woman approached, professional, carrying a tablet, wearing the kind of badge that meant media relations. "Mr. Hayes, I'm Amanda Chen from Channel 7 News. We've been hearing reports that you were instrumental in today's rescue operations. Could we ask you a few questions?" "No," Daniel said immediately. "I just want to go home." "Just 5 minutes. Our viewers would love to hear. You want a story? Talk to Morrison from the fire department. Talk to Michelle, who gave birth in a dark hallway. Talk to the people who actually suffered today. I'm just a maintenance worker who did his job. But according to Chief Brennan, you saved dozens of lives. According to Chief Brennan, I should have been fired this morning, and none of this should have happened in the first place. So no, you don't get your feel-good story. What you get is a lesson in what happens when corporations prioritize profits over safety, when workers are seen as expendable, when people like me try to warn about problems and get ignored. You want to report on that? Be my guest. Otherwise, leave me alone." He walked past her, Lily's hand in his, Tommy following. Behind them, he heard Vanessa start speaking to the reporter, her voice steady and honest in a way he'd never heard from her before. "Ms. Chen, Mr. Hayes is right. This story isn't about heroism. It's about failure, my failure, and what we're going to do to make sure it never happens again. If you want to report on something, report on that." Outside, the sun was setting, painting the city in shades of orange and red. Daniel breathed in the cool evening air, feeling the day's weight settling on his shoulders. "What happens now?" Tommy asked. "Now, I take my daughter home. Tomorrow, I figure out if I still have a job or if this morning's firing still stands. Day after that, I start documenting every problem in this building and sending reports to every inspector and official who will listen." That sounds exhausting. It is, but somebody has to do it. They walked together to the diner with the cracked red vinyl booths, the one that knew their order. The same waitress was there, looking frazzled but managing a smile when she saw them. "Rough day?" she asked. "You could say that," Daniel replied. "The usual?" "Triple order, and coffee, lots of coffee." They slid into their booth. Lily leaned against Daniel's shoulder, her eyes already drooping. Tommy sat across from them, looking shell-shocked but oddly satisfied. "I can't believe Marcus was behind everything," Tommy said. "All those years of working with him." "People surprise you," Daniel said. "Sometimes for the better, sometimes not." His phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Need your input on building assessment. Please come. And bring Lily if you need to." Daniel showed it to Tommy, who whistled low. "She's serious about changing things. We'll see. Talk is easy. Action is harder." The food arrived. Pancakes for Lily, even though it was dinner time, burgers for Daniel and Tommy. They ate in comfortable silence, the kind that came from shared trauma and exhaustion. Daniel's phone buzzed again. This time it was Janet. "Michelle and baby doing great. She named the baby Hope. Thought you'd want to know." Hope. Daniel smiled despite everything. It felt appropriate somehow. "Good news?" Lily asked. "The best," Daniel said. "The baby from today? She has a name. Hope." Lily smiled, then yawned hugely. "That's a good name." "Yeah," Daniel agreed. "It really is." They finished eating as the streetlights flickered on outside, the city transitioning from day to night. Daniel paid the check, money he probably shouldn't spend given his uncertain employment status. But tonight, he didn't care. They walked home through streets that felt different somehow, like the world had shifted slightly while he wasn't looking. Their apartment was small, cramped, filled with the accumulated mess of two people trying to survive without enough time or money. But it was theirs, and tonight it felt like a sanctuary. Lily went straight to bed without argument, still wearing her clothes from the day. Daniel pulled a blanket over her, kissed her forehead, and whispered the same thing he'd whispered every night for 3 years. Your mom would be proud of you. In the kitchen, he made more coffee he didn't need and sat at the small table that doubled as his desk, his workspace, his everything. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The meeting with Vanessa, deciding whether to trust her promises, figuring out how to actually change a corporate culture that had been broken for years. But tonight, he was just a father who'd survived an impossible day with his daughter beside him. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. His phone buzzed one more time. A news alert. Hale Tower crisis. Executive arrested for embezzlement and sabotage. CEO promises full investigation and reforms. Daniel clicked through to the article. There was a photo of Vanessa standing in front of the building, her face drawn but determined, surrounded by reporters. The quote beneath read, "Today exposed failures at every level of this organization, starting with me. We will do better. We have to." Strong words, time would tell if they meant anything. Daniel set his phone down and looked out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Hale Tower stood dark except for emergency lighting, a monument to what happened when people stopped seeing each other as human. Tomorrow, they'd start the work of fixing it. Tonight, he was just going to sit here and breathe. Morning came too early, filtered through cheap blinds that didn't quite close. Daniel woke to find Lily already dressed, sitting at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal and her homework spread out like nothing extraordinary had happened yesterday. "You're up early," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Couldn't sleep much. My brain won't stop replaying everything." She looked up from her math worksheet. "Are you really going to that meeting?" "I said I would." "You don't trust her, though, Miss Hale." Daniel poured coffee, bought himself time to think. "I don't know her well enough to trust her. But yesterday she said things that sounded honest. Whether she follows through, that's different. Mom used to say people show you who they are in a crisis. Your mom was usually right. So what did Ms. Hale show you?" Daniel thought about Vanessa in the tunnel, admitting her failures in front of Chief Brennan and his officers. Thought about her sitting beside him on that cold concrete floor, asking how to fix things she'd broken. "She showed me she's capable of seeing her mistakes," Daniel said finally. "Whether she can actually change, we'll find out." They took the bus to Hale Tower, Lily insisting on coming despite Daniel's protests. The building looked different in daylight, massive and imposing but also wounded, with broken windows on floor 42 covered in plywood, scorch marks visible around the main electrical panel's external vents. Security recognized them immediately. "Mr. Hayes, Miss Hale is expecting you. Conference room B, 3rd floor." "Not the executive floor?" "No, sir. She specifically requested a lower floor. Said the executive suite felt too—" The guard paused, searching for words. "Too disconnected, I think she said." Conference room B was smaller than the one where Daniel had been fired yesterday, with a view of the street instead of the skyline. Vanessa was already there, along with Tommy, Janet from security, and 3 people Daniel didn't recognize, 2 women and a man, all wearing business casual and carrying tablets. "Daniel, thank you for coming." Vanessa gestured to the seats. "This is Sarah Park from Structural Engineering, David Chen from Electrical Systems, and Melissa Rodriguez from Workplace Safety. I've contracted them to do a complete assessment of the building." "Independent contractors?" Daniel asked, settling into a chair. Lily took the seat beside him, pulling out a book. "Independent and with no ties to this company," Vanessa confirmed. "I need objective assessments, not people telling me what they think I want to hear." Sarah Park leaned forward. "Mr. Hayes, we've reviewed the preliminary reports from yesterday. The failure cascade was extensive, electrical, mechanical, safety systems. But what we need from you is context, the maintenance history, the deferred repairs, everything that led to this point." Daniel spent the next hour walking them through 15 years of maintenance records, documented failures, ignored warnings. He pulled up emails on his phone, requests for equipment replacement that had been denied, reports of safety concerns that had been buried, budget proposals that had been slashed. "This is damning," David Chen said, scrolling through the documentation. "Some of this equipment should have been replaced a decade ago." "I know," Vanessa said quietly. "I approved those budget cuts. Marcus recommended them, said we could extend equipment life with proper maintenance. I trusted his expertise." Marcus was embezzling," Daniel said. "He had every incentive to defer actual maintenance because it meant more money he could steal. But you didn't question it because the numbers looked good on paper." "No, I didn't." Vanessa met his eyes. "I saw cost savings and assumed efficiency. I never asked what we were actually cutting, never visited the mechanical rooms to see the state of the equipment. I just signed the approvals and moved on." Melissa Rodriguez made notes on her tablet. "We're going to need full access to every system, every room, every piece of equipment. This assessment is going to take weeks, maybe months." "You'll have it," Vanessa said. "Daniel, I'd like you to work with them, guide them through the building, explain the systems, identify priorities." "As a consultant?" "As the new director of building operations and safety." The room went quiet. Tommy's mouth fell open. Janet looked shocked. "You're offering me a promotion?" Daniel asked. "Yesterday you fired me. Yesterday I made a catastrophic mistake. Today I'm trying to fix it." Vanessa slid a folder across the table. "That's the offer. Salary increase of 40%, full benefits, authority to approve maintenance expenditures up to $50,000 without executive approval, and a direct reporting line to me. You'll oversee all building operations, coordinate with these independent contractors, and implement whatever changes are necessary to prevent this from ever happening again." Daniel opened the folder, scanned the contract. The numbers were real. The authority was real. It was everything he'd needed for 15 years and never had. "There's a catch," he said. "Several catches," Vanessa admitted. "First, you'll be responsible for delivering a comprehensive safety report to the board every quarter. Second, you'll coordinate with city inspectors and fire marshals on ongoing compliance. Third, you'll need to testify in the investigation of Marcus's embezzlement. Everything you know, everything you documented." "That's not a catch. That's basic accountability." "For some people, accountability feels like punishment." Vanessa's smile was thin. "Fourth catch, and this is the big one. I need you to be honest with me. Always. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs money, even when it means telling me I'm wrong. Can you do that?" Daniel thought about yesterday, about calling her out in front of Chief Brennan, about years of biting his tongue to keep his job. "I don't know if I can go back to working for someone who sees me as disposable." "Then don't," Vanessa said. "See me as a person who screwed up and is trying to learn. See yourself as someone with the expertise and authority to actually fix things. And if I ever make you feel disposable again, you call me on it, immediately, in front of whoever needs to hear it. That's not how corporate hierarchy works." "Then maybe we need to change how it works." Lily looked up from her book. "Can I say something?" Everyone turned to her. She seemed small in the big conference room chair, but her voice was steady. "My dad spent 15 years trying to keep this building safe," she said. "He wrote reports nobody read. He warned about problems nobody fixed. He worked extra hours nobody paid him for because he cared about the people in this building. And yesterday, when you fired him and everything fell apart, he came back anyway. Not because he had to. Not because you asked him to. But because that's who he is." She looked directly at Vanessa. "So if you're offering him this job because you feel guilty, or because you need someone to clean up your mess, he should say no. But if you're offering because you actually want to change how things work, because you actually want to listen to people like him, then maybe it's worth trying." The silence that followed was profound. Vanessa's eyes were shining. "Your daughter is remarkable," she said to Daniel. "I know." "She's also right. I am offering partly out of guilt, but mostly because yesterday showed me I've been running this company blind. I need people who will tell me the truth, especially when it's hard to hear. And from what I've seen, you're one of the few people willing to do that." Daniel looked at the contract again, looked at Tommy, who was nodding encouragement, at Janet, who gave him a small smile, at Lily, who'd already gone back to her book like the matter was settled. I want some additional terms, Daniel said. Name them. Tommy gets promoted to senior maintenance engineer. 20% raise, full authority over day-to-day operations. Done. Janet gets a review of security protocols. If she says something's a safety issue, it gets addressed immediately. No questions. Done. Everyone currently in the maintenance department gets a minimum 15% raise, full benefits review, and protection from retaliation for reporting safety concerns. Done. And Michelle, the woman who gave birth yesterday, she gets full paid maternity leave. 6 months. And assistance with childcare when she comes back. Vanessa blinked. That's generous. That's human. She went through hell yesterday because we failed her. This is the least we can do. I'll make it happen. Vanessa stood, extended her hand. Do we have a deal? Daniel stood too. Her hand was small in his, her grip surprisingly strong. We have a deal, but I'm holding you to every word. First time you revert to the old way of doing things, first time you prioritize budget over safety, I walk. And I take my documentation to every news outlet in the city. Fair enough. They shook. Tommy whooped, actually whooped, and came around the table to hug Daniel. Janet was crying, trying to hide it behind her tablet. The engineers started discussing inspection schedules, access requirements, timeline expectations. Daniel half listened, his mind already cataloging everything that needed attention. The elevator cables, the HVAC systems, the aging electrical infrastructure. Years of deferred maintenance compressed into a to-do list that felt overwhelming. But for the first time in 15 years, he had the authority to actually address those problems. That felt like something. The meeting broke up after another hour of logistics. Vanessa pulled Daniel aside as the others filed out. I want you to know something, she said. What you said yesterday about creating an environment where people like Marcus thrive, you were right. I built a culture that rewarded results over ethics, that valued cost-cutting over safety. I can't change that overnight, but I can start trying. Talk is easy, Daniel said. Action is what matters. Then watch my actions. She hesitated. There's something else. My daughter, Emma. She's Lily's age, 9 years old, attends Whitmore Academy. She was supposed to be in the building yesterday for a school tour, but I canceled it last minute because of a meeting. If I hadn't... Her voice broke. Daniel understood immediately. Emma would have been trapped somewhere in the building, in the dark, terrified, like dozens of other people had been. But you did cancel, Daniel said. She's safe. She's safe because I got lucky, not because the building was safe, not because I'd done my job properly. Vanessa wiped her eyes. I keep thinking about all the other parents whose children were here, the interns, the young employees, the visitors. What if someone had died yesterday? How would I have lived with that? I don't know, Daniel said, honestly, but you can't undo what happened. You can only try to prevent it from happening again. Is that enough? It has to be. Vanessa nodded, composing herself. Emma wants to meet Lily. She heard about what happened, about a girl her age helping deliver a baby. She thinks Lily is the coolest person alive. Lily, who'd been pretending not to listen while sitting nearby, looked up with interest. We could do that, Daniel said carefully. Maybe this weekend, somewhere neutral, not the building. The park? Vanessa suggested. There's a good one near... She stopped. Actually, I don't know where you live. I should probably know that if we're going to work together. Mitchell Heights, Daniel said. Near the old textile district. I know it. There's a park there with the playground shaped like a castle. That's the one. Saturday afternoon, I could bring Emma. Maybe we could just talk. Not about work. About normal things. Normal things, Daniel repeated. I'm not sure I remember what those are. Then we'll figure it out together. Over the next 2 weeks, Hale Tower became a construction site. Engineers crawled through every system, documenting failures, prioritizing repairs. Daniel worked 18-hour days, guiding inspections, coordinating contractors, fighting with insurance companies who wanted to minimize payouts. The press coverage was relentless. Marcus's arrest made national news, embezzlement, sabotage, fraud. Philip and Kevin were granted immunity in exchange for testimony. The investigation uncovered $3 million in stolen funds, hidden in accounts Marcus had created over 6 years. But the bigger story was Vanessa's response. She didn't hide, didn't minimize, didn't hire PR firms to spin the narrative. Instead, she held weekly press conferences detailing exactly what had gone wrong and what was being done to fix it. She showed up to community meetings, answered hostile questions, accepted blame without deflection. "Is this a publicity stunt?" one reporter asked during a conference. "If it is, it's a terrible one," Vanessa replied. "My company's stock has dropped 30%. We're facing multiple lawsuits. The Mizuki deal fell through when they learned about the infrastructure failures. From a business perspective, honesty is costing me everything, but it's the right thing to do." "What about the human cost?" another reporter pressed. "The woman who gave birth in a dark hallway, the people trapped in elevators, the employees who lost their sense of safety." "I can't undo that harm," Vanessa said, "but I can acknowledge it. I can apologize directly to every person affected. I can commit to rebuilding not just the physical infrastructure, but the trust that was broken. And I can make sure everyone knows this happened because I failed in my responsibility to keep people safe. Not Marcus, not budget constraints, me." Daniel watched the press conference on a tablet in the mechanical room, taking a rare break from coordinating electrical system upgrades. Tommy joined him, both of them covered in dust and grime from the day's work. "She's really doing it," Tommy said. "Actually taking responsibility." "She's trying," Daniel corrected. "Whether it sticks, we'll see." Saturday came, and Daniel found himself at the park with Lily, watching her gravitate immediately toward Emma Hale. The girls were carbon copies of their parents in some ways. Emma, blonde and polished, Lily, brunette and practical. But they clicked instantly, disappearing into the castle playground within minutes. "They seem to be hitting it off," Vanessa said, sitting beside Daniel on a bench. "Lily doesn't trust easily. Emma must be saying the right things." They watched the girls play, shrieking with laughter as they navigated the playground's tunnels and bridges. Other parents were there too, their children mixing in the organized chaos of weekend park life. "I don't do this enough," Vanessa said quietly. "Bring Emma to parks. Let her just be a kid. I'm always working, always in meetings. Her nanny handles most of the actual parenting." "I get it. After Sarah died, I worked doubles to cover medical debt. Lily spent a lot of time with neighbors, with after-school programs. It wasn't ideal. But you were there for the important stuff." "I tried to be. Didn't always succeed." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Vanessa said, "The board wants to sell. They're using yesterday's crisis as justification, saying the company needs fresh leadership and capital investment." Daniel looked at her. "What do you want?" "I want to finish what I started. The infrastructure repairs, the culture change, actually building a company that values people over profits. But I'm not sure I get a choice." "You always have a choice." "Do I?" "The board controls 51% voting rights. If they want me out, I'm out." "Then fight them. You have documentation now, everything Sarah, David, and Melissa have found. You have proof that the board approved budgets that created these problems. You have public sentiment on your side because you've been honest about the failures. Use that." "I'm not a fighter. I'm a negotiator. I find compromise." "Sometimes there is no compromise," Daniel said. "Sometimes you have to decide what you stand for and accept the consequences." Vanessa watched Emma chase Lily across the playground. "She asked me last night if we were going to be okay." "Emma, she's 9 years old and she's worried about money, about losing our house, because she hears me on the phone, hears the stress in my voice." "What did you tell her?" "That we'd figure it out. That even if we lost everything else, we'd still have each other." "Did she believe you?" "I don't know. I'm not sure I believe it myself." Lily and Emma ran over, breathless and flushed. "Dad, can Emma come over sometime?" Lily asked. "We want to build a fort in the living room." "Sure, sweetheart." "And Ms. Hale," Emma said, suddenly shy, "could Lily come to our house too? I have a pool and a movie room, and if that's okay with Mr. Hayes," Vanessa said. Daniel nodded. The girls ran off again, already planning their fort construction. "They make it look easy," Vanessa said, "just deciding to be friends, not worrying about different backgrounds or circumstances. Kids are good at that. Adults complicate things. Maybe we should learn from them." The weeks turned into months. The building repairs continued, a massive undertaking that involved replacing entire electrical systems, upgrading elevators, modernizing fire suppression, rebuilding mechanical infrastructure. Daniel coordinated it all, working with Sarah Park's team to prioritize safety over speed. Michelle came to visit one afternoon, her daughter Hope asleep in a carrier against her chest. "I wanted to say thank you," she told Daniel, "for everything, for keeping us alive that day. I just did my job." "You did more than that. You came back after they fired you. You risked your life for strangers." She adjusted Hope's blanket. "And Ms. Hale, she called me personally. The maternity leave, the child care assistance, that wasn't required. She's trying to do better." "It shows." Michelle hesitated. "There's been talk. Employees are noticing the changes, better communication, actually listening to safety concerns, maintenance requests getting approved. People are starting to trust again." "That's good to hear. But there's still fear that it's temporary, that once the crisis passes and the news cameras leave, things will go back to how they were." "I have the same fear," Daniel admitted. "All I can do is keep holding people accountable, make sure the changes stick. Then keep doing that. We need people like you." The board meeting happened on a Tuesday in late autumn, 3 months after the crisis. Vanessa had invited Daniel to attend despite the board's objections. "Mr. Hayes is director of building operations," Vanessa had told them. "He needs to present the infrastructure assessment to understand the repair scope and costs." The boardroom was everything Daniel expected. Mahogany table, leather chairs, walls lined with portraits of previous CEOs. 12 board members sat in judgment, most of them older men in expensive suits who looked at Daniel like he was something tracked in on their shoes. He presented the findings methodically. The scope of deferred maintenance, the systems that had failed, the repairs needed to bring the building to code. The total cost, $42 million. "That's unacceptable," one board member, Harrison, according to his nameplate, said. "We don't have that kind of capital available." "Then find it," Daniel said, "because the alternative is operating an unsafe building, and I won't be party to that." "You don't get to make demands of this board." "I'm not making demands. I'm stating facts. The building failed catastrophically 3 months ago. People almost died. The only reason more people weren't hurt is luck and emergency response. If you reopen without addressing these issues, you're gambling with lives." "We can phase the repairs," another board member suggested. "Address the most critical items first, defer the rest." "That's what got us here in the first place," Daniel said. "Deferring maintenance, prioritizing short-term savings over long-term safety. How did that work out?" Harrison's face flushed red. "Your tone is inappropriate." "My tone is honest, which is apparently unusual in rooms like this." Vanessa stood. "Gentlemen, I think we need to take a break. Mr. Hayes, could you wait outside for a moment?" Daniel left, expecting to be fired again. Instead, he waited for 45 minutes while raised voices filtered through the boardroom door. When Vanessa finally emerged, she looked exhausted but oddly triumphant. "They're approving the full repair budget," she said. "All $42 million. "How?" "I gave them a choice. Approve the repairs and keep me as CEO, or force the sale and I go public with every cost-cutting decision they've approved over the past decade. Every deferred maintenance request, every ignored safety warning, every time they chose profits over people." "You blackmailed your own board." "I gave them an informed choice." "There's a difference." "Is there?" "I'm still figuring that out." She smiled, tired but genuine. "But the building will be safe. That's what matters." The holidays came. Daniel spent Thanksgiving with Lily, just the two of them in their small apartment, eating turkey sandwiches and watching old movies. It was quiet, simple, exactly what he needed. His phone rang mid-afternoon, Vanessa's number. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said. "I know it's Thanksgiving." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Emma and I are having dinner. Just us. And it's very quiet, very empty. And I thought maybe if you and Lily weren't busy." "We're not busy. Would you want to join us? I know it's last minute and probably weird, but we'll be there in an hour." Vanessa's house was in the suburbs, the kind of neighborhood with gates and security. But inside it felt almost normal. Lived-in furniture, Emma's toys scattered around, dishes in the sink that suggested Vanessa actually cooked. The four of them ate together, the conversation awkward at first, but gradually finding rhythm. Emma and Lily dominated the discussion, talking about school and friends and their elaborate fort construction plans. Vanessa and Daniel mostly listened, occasionally interjecting, but mostly just present. After dinner, while the girls played upstairs, Vanessa and Daniel cleaned up. "This is nice," Vanessa said, handing him a plate to dry. "Normal." "You say that like it's unusual." "For me, it is. Usually Thanksgiving is catered events with business associates. Networking disguised as holiday celebration." "That sounds exhausting." "It was." She paused, hands in soapy water. "Thank you for coming. I know our history is complicated." "Complicated is one word for it." "I fired you. You saved my company. I'm still not sure I've adequately apologized for the first part." "You're doing the work to fix the problems. That's better than an apology." They finished the dishes in comfortable silence. Upstairs, they could hear Lily and Emma laughing about something. "They've become good friends," Vanessa observed. "Emma talks about Lily constantly, how brave she is, how smart, how cool. Lily says the same about Emma, that she's kind, that she actually listens. That's all we want, isn't it? For our kids to be seen, to be valued for who they are." "Yeah," Daniel agreed. "That's all we want." As the evening wound down and Daniel prepared to leave, Emma hugged Lily goodbye with the fierce intensity of 9-year-olds who'd found true friendship. "Can Lily stay over sometime?" Emma asked Vanessa. "Please." "If Mr. Hayes agrees." "Dad?" Lily looked at him with hopeful eyes. "We'll figure something out," Daniel said. In the car on the way home, Lily was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I like Ms. Hale. She's different than I expected." "Different how?" "Nicer, sadder, more real. People are usually more complicated than they seem at first." "Were you and Ms. Hale ever going to be friends before everything happened?" Daniel thought about that. "No, we existed in different worlds. I was the maintenance guy. She was the CEO. We might have worked in the same building, but we never really saw each other." "And now?" "Now we see each other. That's something." Winter came, and with it the final phases of building repairs. The work was massive. Replacing electrical systems required shutting down floors for weeks at a time. Elevator modernization meant restricted access. HVAC upgrades created noise and disruption. But Daniel coordinated it all with a precision that came from intimate knowledge of every system. Employees started leaving notes at his makeshift office in the mechanical room. Thank you notes, mostly. Appreciation for the work being done, for the visible commitment to safety, for finally feeling like someone cared about their well-being beyond productivity metrics. One note, from a woman who'd been trapped in Elevator 5 during the crisis, simply said, "I can breathe in this building again, thank you." Daniel kept that note pinned above his desk. The criminal trial for Marcus Webb happened in February. Daniel testified for 2 days, walking the jury through maintenance records, explaining how the embezzlement had created the conditions for catastrophic failure. Marcus sat at the defense table, looking small and defeated, nothing like the confident operations manager he'd once been. The verdict came back guilty on all counts. Marcus was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, with restitution ordered for the full $3 million he'd stolen. After the verdict, Daniel stood outside the courthouse, breathing cold air and feeling oddly empty. Justice had been served, but it didn't undo the damage, didn't bring back the sense of safety people had lost, didn't erase the fear Michelle had felt giving birth in a dark hallway. Vanessa found him there. "You okay?" "I don't know what I feel." "Me neither. I keep thinking I should feel satisfied, that the person responsible has been punished, but mostly I just feel sad, because you trusted him, and he betrayed that. Because I created the environment where betrayal was profitable," Vanessa corrected. "If I'd paid attention, valued safety over cost savings, listened when people like you raised concerns, Marcus wouldn't have been able to do what he did." "You can't take responsibility for someone else's choices." "No, but I can take responsibility for mine, and I made a lot of bad ones." They stood together in the cold, watching people come and go from the courthouse. "The building reopens next week," Vanessa said. "Full operations, every system certified safe. City inspectors signed off this morning." "I know. I got the notification. I want you there for the opening, front and center. You saved this building, Daniel. People should know that. I don't want recognition. I just want to do my job. Then do your job. But let people thank you for it. Let them see that the person who kept them safe matters. The reopening ceremony was small. No grand celebration, just employees returning to work in a building that had been transformed. New electrical systems hummed efficiently. Elevators rose and fell smoothly. Climate control worked perfectly. Every system had been upgraded, modernized, certified safe. Daniel walked through the building that morning, checking systems one final time. Everything was perfect. For the first time in 15 years, he could honestly say the building was safe. Employees started arriving around 8. Many of them stopped to thank Daniel, to shake his hand, to tell him they felt secure returning. Michelle came by with hope, the baby now 4 months old and smiling at everyone. "She's beautiful," Daniel said. "She is, and she's here because of you." Vanessa held a short speech in the lobby. Brief, honest, focused on the work that had been done and the commitment to ongoing safety. "This building failed 3 months ago," she said. "Not because of one person's actions, but because of systemic choices that prioritize profits over people. Those choices were mine. I own that. But moving forward, this company will operate differently. We'll invest in safety, listen to concerns, value the people who keep this place running. And we'll do it because it's right, not because it's profitable." Applause echoed through the lobby. Daniel stood near the back, uncomfortable with attention, until Vanessa called him forward. "Daniel Hayes kept this building alive for 15 years, she said. He warned about problems, documented failures, fought for resources to address safety concerns. And when everything fell apart, he came back to save lives even though I'd fired him that morning. This building stands because of him. This company survives because of him. I hope we can all learn from his example." More applause. Daniel wanted to disappear, but Lily was there, grinning at him from where she stood with Emma and Vanessa, and he forced himself to stay. Later, after the ceremony ended and people dispersed to their offices, Daniel stood in the mechanical room one more time. The space was cleaner now, organized, modernized, but it was still his domain, still the heart of the building. Tommy joined him, looking around with satisfaction. "We did it, actually did it. We did. Building's safer than it's ever been." "So what happens now?" "Now we maintain it. Make sure it stays this way." "That's it? Just maintenance?" "That's everything," Daniel said. "Keeping things running, preventing failures before they happen, making sure people are safe. That's the work. It's not glamorous, but it matters." "It does matter." Tommy paused. "Hey Daniel, thank you for training me, for believing I could do this work, for giving me a chance when I was just some kid who didn't know anything. You knew more than you thought. You just needed someone to see it. That's what you did for all of us. You saw us when nobody else did." Daniel didn't have a response to that. They stood together in the mechanical room, listening to the building breathe. Months passed. The building settled into its new normal, safe, functional, properly maintained. The culture shift was slower, harder, but it was happening. Employees felt heard, safety concerns were addressed immediately. Maintenance requests were approved without buried in bureaucracy. Vanessa and Daniel met weekly, reviewing building operations, discussing concerns, making sure the changes stuck. Their relationship remained professional, but had developed into something resembling friendship, built on mutual respect and shared trauma. Emma and Lily became inseparable, spending weekends together, sleepovers alternating between Daniel's small apartment and Vanessa's suburban house. Watching them together, Daniel saw what friendship could be when class and circumstance didn't matter. Just two kids who liked each other, who chose to see each other. On a Saturday in late spring, nearly a year after the crisis, Daniel found himself at the park again with Lily, Emma, and Vanessa. The girls were older now, 10 instead of 9, more confident and independent. "They're going to middle school next year," Vanessa said, watching them play. Emma's terrified. So is Lily. She's trying not to show it, but she's worried. "About what?" "Everything. Fitting in, making friends, being judged for where we live and how much money we don't have." Emma worries about the opposite, being judged for having money, being seen as spoiled or out of touch. "That's the thing about being a kid," Daniel said. "Everyone's scared. They just have different reasons." They sat in companionable silence, watching spring sun filter through new leaves. A year ago, Daniel had been fired, his world collapsing. Now he had a job he believed in, a daughter who was thriving, a sense of purpose that felt solid. "Do you ever think about that day?" Vanessa asked. "The crisis?" "Every day." "Me too. I keep replaying decisions, thinking about what I could have done differently, how to prevent it from happening." You can't prevent every crisis, but you can build systems that respond well when things go wrong. That's what we've done. Is it enough? It has to be. Vanessa turned to look at him. "I never properly thanked you for coming back that day, for saving everyone when you had every reason to walk away." "I couldn't walk away. Not when people needed help." "Most people would have. I would have understood if you had." "I know, but that's not who I am." "No," Vanessa agreed. "It's not." Lily and Emma ran over, breathless and laughing. "Can we get ice cream?" Lily asked. "It's barely noon," Daniel protested. "That's not a no," Emma said, with 10-year-old logic. Vanessa laughed. "Ice cream it is!" They walked together to the ice cream shop, the four of them, looking like any other family on a spring Saturday. Daniel knew it wasn't that simple. He and Vanessa weren't together. Their lives remained separate in most ways. They came from different worlds. But in this moment, with ice cream dripping and girls laughing and spring sun warm on their faces, it was enough. They'd survived a crisis that should have destroyed them. They'd rebuilt what was broken. They'd learned to see each other as human beings instead of roles or positions. Maybe that was the real victory. Not the building repairs or the policy changes or the justice served, but the simple fact that they'd chosen to see each other, to value each other, to build something better from the ashes of what had failed. Daniel thought about Sarah, about what she would say if she could see him now. She'd probably tell him he looked tired, that he was working too hard, that he needed to take better care of himself. But she'd also be proud of how he'd raised Lily, of how he'd fought for what was right, of how he'd chosen compassion over bitterness. "You okay?" Lily asked, catching his expression. "Yeah, sweetheart. I'm okay." "Good, because Emma and I are planning a fort sleepover next weekend and we need your engineering expertise." "Fort engineering is serious business." "The most serious," Emma agreed solemnly. They finished their ice cream and walked back through the park. Vanessa and Daniel trailed behind the girls who'd already moved on to planning their elaborate fort design. "Thank you," Vanessa said quietly, "for giving us a chance, for not letting my mistakes define everything." "People are more than their worst moments," Daniel said. "I learned that from my wife. She believed everyone deserved opportunities to grow, to change, to be better." "She sounds like she was an incredible person." She was. They reached the parking area. Emma hugged Lily goodbye, making plans for the next weekend. Vanessa and Daniel exchanged a look, understanding, respect, something that might have been the beginning of real friendship. "See you Monday?" Vanessa asked. "See you Monday." Daniel and Lily drove home through familiar streets, the city unchanging, but somehow different. Or maybe Daniel was different. Maybe crisis had stripped away the parts of himself he'd been performing. The quiet maintenance worker who never made waves, the grieving widower who couldn't move forward, the father who was barely holding on. What remained was simpler. He was someone who knew how to fix things, who chose to help even when it cost him, who believed that people mattered more than profits, that safety was worth fighting for, that doing the right thing was its own reward. It wasn't a perfect life. He still had medical debt, still worried about money, still missed Sarah with an ache that never quite faded. But he had work that mattered, a daughter who was remarkable, friends who saw him for who he was. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Daniel sat at his small kitchen table with a cup of coffee and his laptop. He opened his maintenance logs, started reviewing the week's upcoming tasks. Routine work, checking systems, documenting conditions, ensuring everything ran smoothly. His phone buzzed, a text from Tommy. "Chiller 2 is making a sound. Not bad yet, but worth checking Monday." Daniel replied, "Good catch. I'll take a look first thing." This was the work. Not dramatic rescues or crisis management, but the daily attention that prevented disasters. The quiet competence of knowing systems, hearing problems before they became catastrophes, caring enough to document and address issues before they endangered lives. Daniel thought about the note pinned above his desk. I can breathe in this building again. That was what mattered. Not recognition or gratitude or public acknowledgement, just people feeling safe, being safe, living their lives without fear that the building around them might fail. He finished his coffee, closed the laptop, and looked around his small apartment. It wasn't much, but it was home. It was enough. Outside, the city hummed with life. Thousands of people in thousands of buildings, all depending on systems that worked, on infrastructure that held, on someone caring enough to keep things running. Daniel had spent 15 years being invisible, keeping buildings alive from basements nobody visited. He'd been fired, humiliated, stripped of dignity, and he'd chosen to come back anyway. Not for glory or revenge, but because people needed help and he knew how to provide it. That choice had changed everything. Not just for him, but for everyone in that building. For Vanessa, forced to confront her failures and learn to do better. For Tommy and Janet and every employee who'd watched someone choose principle over self-interest. For Emma and Lily, who'd learned that friendship could transcend circumstance. The invisible man had become visible, not through dramatic gestures or forced recognition, but through the simple act of continuing to care when caring was hard. And in the end, maybe that was the only heroism that mattered. Showing up, doing the work, choosing people over pride. Building something better from the ruins of what had failed. Daniel rinsed his coffee cup, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems to solve, new systems to maintain. But tonight, he could rest knowing that he'd done what mattered. He'd kept people safe. He'd chosen compassion. He'd rebuilt what was broken. And he'd do it all again tomorrow.